welcome to Second Act, Parmesh Shahani. You are one of the voices people want to hear. Uh, there is so much being done and spoken about the LGBTQ community, and you are that stalwart who's taken on, I think, this topic as very normal and have spoken about it since years. I think at least more than a decade that I have seen your YouTubes and the TED Talks that you have done. So welcome. You have been an independent LGBTQ consultant now. Your last stint was with Godrej Industries, where we all know that you've done a fantastic amount of work. Founder of the award-winning Godrej India Culture Lab in Mumbai. I want to talk a little bit more about that, of course, in my conversation with you. You're doing a lot of work in this space. You also now consult a lot of organizations because there is so much focus in organizations about how do we become inclusive? This topic of inclusivity, thankfully, has stretched from just being inclusive to have women in the organizations to including everyone. And this is such, I think, it is the most wanted and the most, I would say, a topic which will bring the world closer. So it's such an honor to have you on the Second Act podcast. I don't know what you think of the name Second Act, but this is such an empowering word for me. It brings me that the empowerment that I want for the day, and it brings out my beautiful second act. So welcome. How are you feeling today?
Thank you. Thank you, Archana. I'm very happy to be here. I like second acts, third acts. I think life is a constant process of reinvention, remaking, reframing, constantly learning and relearning and unlearning.
Beautiful.
So I think, if you have just one act, then I think, no, I mean, if you're happy with that, that's good. But I think in, the world in which we live now, post-pandemic realization, I won't say post-pandemic because the pandemic is still on. But I think many people are realizing that, we can be multiple in, how we are and all the things that we do. So I love the title and I love that everything that you're doing with the podcast, and it's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. And Parmesh, I love your styling. I love what you wear. Every time that you're on, one of the channels, I always look at, how you style yourself. So tell us a little bit about your styling. That really is.
Well, I love, I'm a big proponent of Make in India mostly. So I love, almost everything I wear, except sometimes for like some shoes, accessories and things like that. Yeah. But, I love Indian textiles. I love buying Indian textiles. I love going back into the provenance of Indian textiles and learning more about the incredible artisans and karigars who made them. And all the way down to the incredible karigars like tailors, jewelry designers, etc., who make, clothes, accessories. So my style is very much a function of my deep love for the living crafts and art heritage of our country. We are so blessed to be in one of the few countries in the world in which our living crafts are still living. In so many other parts of the world, because of industrialization and mechanization, so many arts and crafts have been lost. But in India, we have, creative economies which are still alive. And so a lot of my style comes from a deep appreciation of this, and also my desire to be a patron, my desire to continue these traditions, and my own fabulous queer take on them. So whether it is in buying textiles and saris or fabrics and making them into beautiful shapes, or wearing jewelry, which I often do from what might be imagined. I mean, I think gender itself is so restrictive, but women's section and men's section in today's world, I mean, what are these norms? But what might be framed as women's garments or textiles or jewels, I love putting my own spin on them, and I love having fun, and I think I love having pleasure with my clothes, and with everything I do, because I want the world to see joy. I think it's very important in how we, talk about the things that matter to us, how we present, how we share. I want, so in everything that I do, I like to present queer joy, queer happiness, queer success, queer possibility. So my clothes and everything I do are a manifestation of all of that.
Absolutely. So have you ever thought of like starting a store line or like a clothes line or consulting people on styling? Because it's fantastic. I'll tell you, I dream of it that in one of the events that I create, all men are wearing linen saris. And it's such a fantastic image that comes to me. I'm not kidding. I was just
Well, my friend Anna Villa will be very happy because she'll have so much more business. I have, but as of now, I think there are just about less than 10, at least. I think my clothes will be a big hit in the, say, what is now broadly imagined as the women's market right now. But I think what is understood as the men's market, I think besides, say, Ranveer and a few other incredible dressers, I don't think I may have much of a, client base. But I think the market that is emerging, there are so many incredible young people, straight, queer, however they choose to identify, are so creative, so fluid, so wonderfully confident with their own sartorial choices. So I think if I got in and tried to serve them, I think I would do very, very well. So let me think about it. You've given me a new business idea.
Yeah, you must. Okay, so Parmesh, coming back to, of course, asking you about, when you started to talk about, like the gay world or the world that, brought you a sense of belonging to now, fast forward many years ahead. How do you think things have changed?
So
Have things
I think
changed?
things have certainly changed. I'm 46 now, so I grew up in the India of the 80s and 90s. So besides, of course, things like technology and access, and albeit technology, products, all these things, the access to it continues to be limited by, where one is located in terms of, region, class, caste, other kinds of privileges. But certainly over the years, things like the cell phone and the ubiquitous nature of, say, cell phones have enabled much more people to have access to information, seek knowledge, network and connect in wonderful and beautiful ways as well. Of course, these same tools have also led to other kinds of oppression and so on. But very, very broadly, have things changed? Yes, things have changed in terms of the law. So when I grew up, Section 377 was very much on the books. And over the years, it's had its own journey of going away, then in 2009, coming back in 2013, going away in 2018. But as of now, we are living in a country in which it is not criminal to be LGBTQIA, which is incredible because I spent most of my time growing up in a country in which it was. There are other progressive laws, whether NALSA, whether right to privacy, whether the deeply flawed Transgender Act, and so on, which have, at least in terms of the law, made life a little more secure for queer people. Now, these laws need to be translated into actions on the ground for queer citizens to actually get the benefits of, the good intent that these laws promise. And a lot of that needs to be done. But fundamentally, we are in a better position legally, say, than we were before. Socially as well. And I write about this in Queeristan. There are so many instances, whether it's in families being accepting, whether it's in certain state governments understanding the importance, maybe not necessarily of LGBTQ, but certainly of trans inclusion and formulating policies and trying to understand their transgender communities and creating spaces for them. Certainly media has been there has been an explosion of positive media about queer people. in various Indian languages, because of things like OTT platforms and so on, but also because of things like TikTok and YouTube, which have empowered queer content creators to kind of own their own narrative. A lot of which is, say, not possible in mainstream media,
right,
where a lot of the narratives are being still owned by, say, heterosexual content producers and so on. So in so many ways, and I mean, what I'm really excited about is in seeing the changes that are coming from smaller towns, and so far underrepresented regions, at least in the public imagination of queerness, right? So a lot of the exciting work comes, Queerala in Kerala, for example, out of Kozhikode, or Queerabad out of Ahmedabad, or Ya All in Manipur, or projects like Dalit Queer Project or Queer Muslim Project, or organization. I mean, incredible NGOs all across, big and small, across the region. Incredible queer archives like Kamra in Bangalore and Varta in Calcutta.
Wow.
New physical spaces and centers like Aicha Ghar that Gauri Sawant is doing in Maharashtra. Trans in by periphery. There are so many. I mean, what Tweet Foundation is doing with Garima Gray, for example, like physical spaces for trans people. Schools and colleges that are engaging and embracing, workplaces, which is where I spent a lot of my time, doing research over the past few years. So very broadly, there are incredible micro revolutions of change taking place in our country, which I'm enthused about. Of course, this is not to say that bad things are not happening. Parallel with all of this is there is incredible amount of oppression of queer people. Parents are still giving electric shocks to their own children, which I find unbelievable. Parents are still forcing their children into straight marriage, even when the children tell them that we are queer, which to me is is torture, and not just for your own child, but also for the person you're forcing your child to marry. The rates of, say, depression, suicide, etc., in queer people is so much more than that of heterosexual.
Yes.
And if you look at representation, I mean, in corporations, at every level or anywhere actually, queer people are significantly underrepresented. So, I mean, there are real fundamental challenges with regard to physical health and safety, mental health, well-being, access, public infrastructure, and so on, which really, really now we as a society collectively need to address. So, I mean, I always see, I think so, there's good stuff happening in the context of a very challenging environment is what I would frame it as. Yes.
So as they say that awareness is the first step to change, and there is a lot of awareness around, inclusion and diversity, which genuinely corporations are now willing to, inbuilt into their policies and, the way they are designing the companies. But like you said, a lot of challenges are still going on. So how do we as regular people, as allies, as people who care, and just like like a friend, peer, an organization leader, how do we do our bit to make this a safe environment?
Yeah, so Archana, I'm very happy with awareness, but awareness doesn't pay our bills. Awareness does not make us safe when we are walking home. Awareness does not, give us jobs or dignity, or prevent us from being harassed or killed. So I love awareness, and for all these years, I wanted awareness, and I wanted conversation, and I wanted a listening ear and things like that. Now I want action. I want now action from individuals as allies who understand that being inclusive towards LGBTQ people, you are not just doing us, you are not doing us a favor. Actually, you are doing yourself a favor, because you are going to grow so much through this process as well. And I want action on the part of organizations, whether it is schools, colleges, workplaces, and so on. Yeah. Again, from an understanding that when you go on an inclusion journey, the only person that benefits exponentially is you. Of course, the minority, and this is, I'm talking in the context of LGBTQ, but this is true for women, for PWD, for regional, caste, religious, any other kinds of diversity that you look at as well. I want action. So at an individual level, what do I want? I want allies to stand up, speak up, and show up for us. I want them to actively stop harassment when they see it. I want them to intervene in homes, in workplaces, in families, in other spaces, and actively create a better environment, whether it is in ensuring that infrastructure is put up, like an all-gender washroom, whether it is in using your power and privilege to change policies, whether it is in actively hiring queer people, whether it is in learning more about queer people and actually supporting, whether it is in oneself volunteering and sharing one's pronouns as a, perhaps heterosexual cisgendered ally, but to indicate that this is a journey that you are on as well. So I want action at individual levels. At organization levels, I want deep commitment. I want organizations to allocate significant budgets. I want them to change all policies. I hate now when organizations say, we will take baby steps. So while you all take baby steps, what are we supposed to do? Wait outside your door? I mean, we waited for more than 70 years to become just non-criminals in our country. How many years are we going to wait for you to take baby steps as organizations until you figure out stuff? We have, mouths to feed, bills to pay, lives to live, and we want to live full and complete lives. So I don't want baby steps. I think organizations, and I want more than awareness. I want action. I want intent that is translated to action, supported by budgets. I want all the policies changed, not just one by one. Not say, now let us do partnership benefits. Let's think about transgender, gender affirmation later. Why? Are you telling men this as well? Now let us give you one benefit and wait for 2 years until you get another. Straight able-bodied men to want all the benefits at the same time. They don't want to stagger. So I want you to commit. I want organizations to commit to actively hiring queer people from various places. And the entire network is out there. You just have to use it. I want active promotion of queer people everywhere. I want queer people at senior leadership levels. I want queer people at board levels. I want queer people in governments. I want schools and colleges teaching and making very clear that their queer students are protected and safe. I mean, why should we not have it all? And why should organizations not invest in creating this?
Right.
Because we are 6 to 10% of the population. We are talent, we are valuable. So, I want action now, yeah. I'm fed up of lip service.
But you're doing a great job in, really bringing out the voice and now working as an independent consultant. I think that also makes a difference. But you started something very powerful at Godrej, which is the Culture Club. And so if organizations get onto this level, and I also know that one of the TED Talks you spoke about Mahindra, and at that time when things were not that much in open, Mahindra did support you also to say we might not change policy, but we will give you the same kind of rights. So how do you think that what did you exactly do in the Culture Lab, and how can organizations learn from there?
So I think between my Mahindra experience, when I was also very naive and somewhat selfish, and very okay to take special rights for oneself, to my Godrej experience where I had understood that one of the responsibilities of privilege is that you help open the door for others to come in as well. So, I mean, as of today, I don't think any organization can say we will give you special treatment, but not give it to everyone else. I think that would be very cringe today. So when I look back, I'm really, really grateful that I had, that was followed by the Godrej experience where one insisted that the organization itself has to change fundamentally and offer benefits to all queer people. And I think in today's world, organizations that do not commit to structural, fundamental change, their own employees, their own customers, their own stakeholders will call them out for being performative and not genuine. So Godrej's journey was interesting because it was a decade-long journey. Parallel to running the Culture Lab, I worked at the Godrej Industries as well and helped shift, policies and culture. Everything from equal from same-sex partnership benefits to gender affirmation surgery to, at least in certain headquarters and offices, all gender washrooms and things like that, at a policy level, but also really working with senior leadership to educate them and understand them about why this is important, how they can use their power to benefit others, and so on. The Culture Lab was a public experiment that was hosted out of the within the Godrej campus, but for the city. So it was a cultural space for the whole city. Nice. Everything was free and open to all attendees. And so there were events, there were resources that we produced, like white papers, there were pop-up museums that we did. And the whole idea was to have an ongoing conversation about contemporary India, talking about issues that were maybe underrepresented in the public sphere. And it was actually a wonderful example of an organization committing to, long-term conversations about, the changes taking place in the country. So it was cultural patronage of the highest kind. Of course, everything was hosted within the organization. So employees of the organization just needed to walk down 2 flights of stairs and attend. But it was not necessarily for the organization's employees. In fact, most of our attendees came from outside.
I think that So I said that is the beautiful thing, because it's not restricted to just Godrej, and I think this is a very good team. So that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, and I'd hoped and I'd wished that other organizations would follow and create similar environments within their own campuses. And what has surprised me actually and disappointed me over the past 10 years is that, why there aren't others, because, people have praised the Culture Lab idea and said it was radical and revolutionary. Then why are you not doing it? I mean, it's not patented or copyrighted. The whole idea is for an organization to think of itself as something more than just a place that people give their time and labor to produce goods and services. An organization can be a space for change, a space for ideas, a public resource. So why have other organizations not said that we also want to create similar environments? So to me, I'm very happy when I look back at the legacy of the Culture Lab and everything that we achieved. But I wish that it had served as an exemplar for maybe 100 other such spaces to come up, because they're really needed in our country.
Beautiful. It will happen. Change has started. And like I said, that you are the torchbearer. So keep on doing what you're doing. You are a man with various hats. And I know that you also have a great collection of hats. Where does that come
from? I don't know. I guess I've always loved fashion. I've always loved dressing up. I've always loved, I think from my childhood, from seeing, I think Amitabh Bachchan and, My Name is Anthony Gonzalez when he comes out of the Easter egg with that beautiful top hat and the bow tie. So yeah, I think it comes from my deep love for, Bollywood, the transformative power of dressing up, and how dressing up can really enable you to feel more like who you are. So I've always been attracted to various things, right? Indian textiles, hats, bow ties, you name it. My choices are very eclectic, yeah.
So you spoke about Bollywood, and I come to that. And so Bollywood is one place where people, I think, just look up to the content. It is a way of reaching millions of people, right? And Bollywood in India is the place where I think everybody comes together. So how do you think that Bollywood, and recently there's so many movies and also a lot of OTT content around LGBTQ, queer, transgender, etc. So how do you think that that can really help to bridge everything that we have been speaking about as well?
Yeah, I think it's very important because, media and content it touches people's hearts and helps them, shift their perceptions and opinions. I think it's fundamental. And I'm just so glad that people, across the content spectrum have incorporated LGBTQ issues in their storyline. I like seeing how so many different issues are being represented. Like, I really like Badai Do, for example, because it wasn't just about, seeking parental acceptance. It went beyond and spoke about the need for queer marriage. It spoke about having children and the idea of queer families. I thought it was incredible as a film because, a lot of other queer content is the same old trope of let our parents accept us, and then very DDLJ, but with queer people, right? So then what? But Badhai Do was like, you know what? There are future possibilities after acceptance, which is living a fulfilled life in multiple ways. Now, everyone might not want to marry and have children because that is one way of living a life, certainly not the only way of living a life. But Badhai Do showed that as a queer possibility. And I think it was very, very important. As was Chandigarh Kare Aashiki, for example, and so many others in the Hindi realm. But OTT films like, Gili Puchi, for example, with Neeraj directed at Netflix as part of one of their anthologies. It was very interesting because it's the first time you're hearing a character, at least in mainstream TV, saying very, confidently that I'm Dalit and I'm lesbian. This is Konkana's character. And it was incredible. So I think there are, something like the Fame game, which shows Madhuri, an iconic star, understanding and accepting her gay son, and trying to be a good mother and trying to understand and trying to be loved. I think, when people see, this range of, something like 4 More Shots, Please, the season 2 was a complete lesbian wedding celebration.
Yes.
So I think when people see this range of possibilities, including tropes like accepting parents, workplaces, and so on, they get an idea of how to behave well. They get an idea of saying, instead of saying, oh my God, this, main kya karu, ye wo, etc., the same old crying, shock tropes, they are given, role models for how they can behave, right? So in Chandigarh Kare Aashiki, you see parents who just very naturally and lovingly accept their trans child and support them.
Yeah.
And it happens in real life as well, because Ghazal Dhaliwal, the celebrated Bollywood writer, has had a similar experience, and so on. So I'm saying it's very nice. What I like is that now we are seeing role models that regular people who see these things can also see and emulate. And I think that is how the change will become, because we need to show mainstream society that this is how you accept. So in our films, in our ads, in our daily conversation, in what we do at workplaces. So it's very important. Yeah.
So you've thought of acting ever?
I've done a very small role in an upcoming Netflix series, which I must say I didn't enjoy at all because I didn't like the waits. I think there's just a lot of waiting on sets. And I'm inherently impatient as a person. So I love the camera, but I don't think I will act in fiction. But I would be very happy to do a non-fiction format, which I think I'll be very good at. Yeah.
Right. So, Parmesh, this podcast is about second act, and I want to ask this question. What is your second act?
I think I'm on my 3rd or 4th act, if you ask me, because, my first act was a media content creator, as a journalist, as someone who created one of India's first youth websites. I think my second act was that of a scholar and writer at MIT, with books, running a think tank and so on. And my 3rd act has been very much in the corporate world, with what we spoke about recently at Godrej. So I think I'm on my 4th, if not more act. In between, there was fashion magazine editor and so many other things as well. I think now what I really want to do is use my, power, privilege, and influence in really, really helping the next generation of queers to gain confidence and opportunities in multiple ways. So, which is one of the reasons I left, the full-time job at Godrej, because I really wanted to help multiple organizations, corporate, not-for-profit, and otherwise, in really, really, expanding their horizons and doing more. Because I'm becoming very impatient. Maybe it's old age or middle age, but I really want to see this change in my lifetime. And I don't want to be satisfied with crumbs that keep on being thrown our way. I want my queer citizens of our country to bake big, huge cakes and eat them all and share them with others instead of subsiding on the crumbs that say heterosexual society throws our way. So I'm very invested in helping people bake bigger cakes and eat them.
Okay. Yeah, second act is just a metaphor, and I think you just explained beautifully what you want to do. So that's what I'm going to take it from here. So we have a beautiful rapid fire before you go away, and
I hope there's a good hamper.
Yeah. Yes, I will tell you all about it later. So first,
yes.
So texting or talking?
Talking. I'm old school. Also old.
Great. Last song that you downloaded?
I'm again like, I don't download songs. I just listen. I'm a cheapskate. I listen to like the Spotify, free service with all the ads.
Yeah, we all do. Spotify, are you hearing?
I keep on saying, should I get the paid service? I'm like, nah, we listen to the ads. So I don't download music, I just stream it. But yeah, if you had to ask me like what was the last song I heard, then it's the, I think it's the Brahmastra, it's the Brahmastra love song that just came out. Yeah.
Waiting for the movie, that's true.
Kesaria,
your nickname?
It's Parmesh only, I mean, there's no...
Really? It's such a long name. In fact, I was going to ask you, is there a nickname I can call you that the world calls you?
No, people just say Parmesh only. I mean, I'm waiting for people to say Your Highness and...
like, wow, what
it doesn't happen. Just Parmesh,
Okay, so what's been your favorite age so far?
Oh, it's beautiful. What a lovely question. I think my favorite age was 27 because it was my second year at MIT when I met my partner at that time. And I think it was really, really magical living together, learning about the expansive nature of love and all the possibilities therein. I was, so happy, so confident, so joyous, so in love, so full of hope, and imagining, I think, I think that age, being at that moment in, a place like Cambridge, Massachusetts, also at a time in American history when, gay marriage was being legalized at that time. So I think it was a heady time to be in that place at that time with that person and doing the kind of work I was doing then. So I'll always look back very fondly at 27.
So beautiful, and thanks for sharing. This is so cute. Okay, one thing that you would like for people who have not come out yet and don't have the bravery or the courage, what would you like to tell them?
I would like to tell them ki don't feel compelled to come out or do anything that you don't feel like doing. I mean, your life is completely your life. You must live it on your own terms, and that includes choosing whether to come out or not, deciding who to come out to, who not to come out to. So please be strategic and put yourself first in terms of this. If you are in a home in which you feel you are not confident about how people might respond, if you feel that your physical safety is threatened, if you feel that your mental safety is at risk, if you feel you are in organizations which may not treat you well. I mean, I don't think coming out is an imperative at all. So I think you should decide based on your level of, confidence and safety. I can share from my own experience that coming out for me was liberating. Coming out for me unburdened me in so many ways. And for so many other people, when you come out, all the research says that when you come out, say at the workplace, you're 30% more productive because you're spending so much time otherwise in hiding a major part of who you are. So, all the data says that coming out can be incredibly positive and helpful. But you have to decide, because you have to weigh that against your own reality, and no one knows your own reality more than you. If you do decide to come out, please be careful and safe. Tell your friends about it. If the situation goes bad, have a backup plan and so on. Because as much as we would love to believe that people are inherently good and they'll be loving and accepting, the reality is that it may not go positively. And in that case, you better have a backup plan as well. So yeah, that's my advice. I'm super, be pragmatic. That's what I want to say.
That's lovely. And Parmesh, thank you for this fantastic conversation. A lot came out here. And this precious time, this precious moments of like knowing, the kind of work that you're doing, it really encourages me. It gives me another bearing for my own second act. So thank you so much for today.
Thank you, Archana, and I love what you're doing. So keep up the great work. Yeah.
Thank you.